In the glittering lights of Milan, Italy, where fancy restaurants hide dark secrets and exclusive clubs pulse with power, a simple waitress named Sophia found herself caught in a dangerous storm. One night, as she leaned close to serve a powerful man his drink, their eyes locked in a way that sent shivers down her spine. He whispered something low and intense, his hand brushing hers just a little too long. But across town, at a glamorous party, another man, even more dangerous, spotted her from afar and decided right then that no one else could have her. What started as sparks turned into obsession, and soon two ruthless mafia bosses were ready to risk everything, even war, because both believed one heartbreaking truth: she's mine. Sophia Rossi was a strong young woman in her mid-20s who worked hard every day to make ends meet. She had smooth olive skin that glowed under the restaurant lights, long wavy dark brown hair often tied back in a simple ponytail while on shift, deep brown eyes that sparkled with kindness and a bit of hidden fire, and a warm smile that made customers feel at home. She usually wore a fitted black waitress uniform, a crisp white blouse tucked into a knee-length black skirt, with comfortable black flats because she was on her feet all night. Sophia lived in a small apartment in Milan, paying bills and dreaming of a quieter life, but she had no idea how much her world was about to change. The place where she worked was called Illinois Luogo, one of the most luxurious restaurants in the heart of Milan. It had elegant wooden tables, soft lighting from crystal chandeliers, and walls lined with expensive wines. Rich people came here for private dinners, businessmen closed big deals over steak and pasta, and everyone whispered that the owner had connections you didn't want to mess with. On a busy Friday evening, Sophia was rushing between tables, carrying trays of food and drinks. The air smelled like fresh garlic bread and rich sauces. She approached a corner table where a high-profile man sat alone, waiting for his meal. His name was Lorenzo Moretti, a handsome man in his late 30s who ran things behind the scenes in Milan. Lorenzo had tanned olive skin from Italian roots, short black hair neatly styled, piercing green eyes that could read a room in seconds, and a strong jawline with a light stubble that made him look both dangerous and charming. He dressed sharp, a tailored dark suit with a silk tie, expensive watch glinting on his wrist, and polished leather shoes. He was the secret owner of Illinois Luogo, but no one on staff knew that yet. Sophia smiled as she set down his plate of risotto. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy your meal." Lorenzo looked up, and his eyes locked on hers. He didn't smile right away, but there was something intense in the way he stared. "Thank you, Sophia," he said, reading her name tag. His voice was deep and calm, like he was used to people listening when he spoke. She felt a little flutter in her chest. Most customers barely noticed her, but this man was different. "Is there anything else I can get you?" He leaned forward a bit. "Maybe later. Tell me, do you always work this hard?" Sophia laughed softly. "Have to. Bills don't pay themselves." Lorenzo nodded, like he understood more than he let on. "A woman like you shouldn't have to worry about that." She blushed a little, her cheeks turning pink against her olive skin. "That's kind of you to say. Enjoy your food." As she walked away, Lorenzo watched her. He had come to the restaurant that night just to check on things, but now he couldn't take his eyes off her. There was something about Sophia, her strength, her smile, that pulled at him. He wasn't the type to chase anyone, but for her, he felt a spark he hadn't in years. Later that night, after her shift at Illinois Luogo ended, Sophia's best friend dragged her to a glamorous event across town. It was a private party at Hollywood Rhythmotech, one of Milan's hottest clubs on Corso Como. The place was packed with beautiful people, music thumping, lights flashing, champagne flowing. Sophia wasn't used to this world. She had changed into a simple black dress that hugged her figure, her long wavy dark brown hair loose down her back, and a touch of makeup that made her deep brown eyes stand out even more. "Come on, Sophia. You work too hard. One night out won't hurt," her friend Julia said. Julia was a fun-loving woman with fair skin, straight blonde hair to her shoulders, blue eyes, and she always wore trendy outfits like a sparkly top and jeans. Sophia sipped her drink and laughed. Okay, but I'm not staying late." From a VIP booth upstairs, a man named Vincenzo Ricci spotted her right away. Vincenzo was in his early 40s, a rival to Lorenzo in the shadowy world of Milan's underground. He had fairer skin with a slight tan, messy dark hair that fell over his forehead, intense hazel eyes that burned with passion, and a muscular build under his open-collar black shirt and designer jacket. He looked impulsive, like he grabbed what he wanted without thinking twice. Vincenzo leaned over to his friend. "Who is that?" His buddy shrugged. "Some waitress type." "Why?" Vincenzo didn't answer. He was obsessed already. The way Sophia moved through the crowd, laughing with her friend, unaware of the eyes on her, it hit him hard. He stood up and made his way down. Sophia felt someone approach. She turned, and there he was, tall and intense. "You're the most beautiful woman here," Vincenzo said straight out, his voice rough but exciting. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Thanks. Do I know you?" "Not yet," he grinned, showing perfect teeth. "But you will. Dance with me." She hesitated. There was something wild about him that scared her a little, but also thrilled her. "I don't even know your name." "Vincenzo. And yours?" "Sophia." He took her hand gently but firmly. "Come on, Sophia. One dance." As they moved to the dance floor, the music loud and the lights swirling, Vincenzo pulled her close. His hands on her waist felt possessive already. Sophia's heart raced. What was happening? Earlier that night, Lorenzo's quiet stare had made her feel seen. Now this man was like a fire, burning hot and fast. Back at the restaurant, Lorenzo finished his meal and asked the manager about the waitress named Sophia. He learned she was single, hardworking, lived alone. A small smile crossed his face. He would see her again. Little did Sophia know that one night had put her in the middle of two powerful men. Lorenzo, calculated and soft only for her. Vincenzo, impulsive and ready to fight for what he claimed. The sparks were just starting. In the glittering lights of Milan, Italy, where fancy restaurants hide dark secrets and exclusive clubs pulse with power, a simple waitress named Sophia found herself caught in a dangerous storm. One night, as she leaned close to serve a powerful man his drink, their eyes locked in a way that sent shivers down her spine. He whispered something low and intense, his hand brushing hers just a little too long. But across town, at a glamorous party, another man, even more dangerous, spotted her from afar and decided right then that no one else could have her. What started as sparks turned into obsession, and soon two ruthless mafia bosses were ready to risk everything, even war, because both believed one heartbreaking truth: she's mine. Sophia Rossi was a strong young woman in her mid-20s who worked hard every day to make ends meet. She had smooth olive skin that glowed under the restaurant lights, long wavy dark brown hair often tied back in a simple ponytail while on shift, deep brown eyes that sparkled with kindness and a bit of hidden fire, and a warm smile that made customers feel at home. She usually wore a fitted black waitress uniform, a crisp white blouse tucked into a knee-length black skirt, with comfortable black flats because she was on her feet all night. Sophia lived in a small apartment in Milan, paying bills and dreaming of a quieter life, but she had no idea how much her world was about to change. The place where she worked was called Illinois Luogo, one of the most luxurious restaurants in the heart of Milan. It had elegant wooden tables, soft lighting from crystal chandeliers, and walls lined with expensive wines. Rich people came here for private dinners, businessmen closed big deals over steak and pasta, and everyone whispered that the owner had connections you didn't want to mess with. On a busy Friday evening, Sophia was rushing between tables, carrying trays of food and drinks. The air smelled like fresh garlic bread and rich sauces. She approached a corner table where a high-profile man sat alone, waiting for his meal. His name was Lorenzo Moretti, a handsome man in his late 30s who ran things behind the scenes in Milan. Lorenzo had tanned olive skin from Italian roots, short black hair neatly styled, piercing green eyes that could read a room in seconds, and a strong jawline with a light stubble that made him look both dangerous and charming. He dressed sharp, a tailored dark suit with a silk tie, expensive watch glinting on his wrist, and polished leather shoes. He was the secret owner of Illinois Luogo, but no one on staff knew that yet. Sophia smiled as she set down his plate of risotto. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy your meal." Lorenzo looked up, and his eyes locked on hers. He didn't smile right away, but there was something intense in the way he stared. "Thank you, Sophia," he said, reading her name tag. His voice was deep and calm, like he was used to people listening when he spoke. She felt a little flutter in her chest. Most customers barely noticed her, but this man was different. "Is there anything else I can get you?" He leaned forward a bit. "Maybe later. Tell me, do you always work this hard?" Sophia laughed softly. "Have to. Bills don't pay themselves." Lorenzo nodded, like he understood more than he let on. "A woman like you shouldn't have to worry about that." She blushed a little, her cheeks turning pink against her olive skin. "That's kind of you to say. Enjoy your food." As she walked away, Lorenzo watched her. He had come to the restaurant that night just to check on things, but now he couldn't take his eyes off her. There was something about Sophia, her strength, her smile, that pulled at him. He wasn't the type to chase anyone, but for her, he felt a spark he hadn't in years. Later that night, after her shift at Illinois Luogo ended, Sophia's best friend dragged her to a glamorous event across town. It was a private party at Hollywood Rhythmotech, one of Milan's hottest clubs on Corso Como. The place was packed with beautiful people, music thumping, lights flashing, champagne flowing. Sophia wasn't used to this world. She had changed into a simple black dress that hugged her figure, her long wavy dark brown hair loose down her back, and a touch of makeup that made her deep brown eyes stand out even more. "Come on, Sophia. You work too hard. One night out won't hurt," her friend Julia said. Julia was a fun-loving woman with fair skin, straight blonde hair to her shoulders, blue eyes, and she always wore trendy outfits like a sparkly top and jeans. Sophia sipped her drink and laughed. Okay, but I'm not staying late." From a VIP booth upstairs, a man named Vincenzo Ricci spotted her right away. Vincenzo was in his early 40s, a rival to Lorenzo in the shadowy world of Milan's underground. He had fairer skin with a slight tan, messy dark hair that fell over his forehead, intense hazel eyes that burned with passion, and a muscular build under his open-collar black shirt and designer jacket. He looked impulsive, like he grabbed what he wanted without thinking twice. Vincenzo leaned over to his friend. "Who is that?" His buddy shrugged. "Some waitress type." "Why?" Vincenzo didn't answer. He was obsessed already. The way Sophia moved through the crowd, laughing with her friend, unaware of the eyes on her, it hit him hard. He stood up and made his way down. Sophia felt someone approach. She turned, and there he was, tall and intense. "You're the most beautiful woman here," Vincenzo said straight out, his voice rough but exciting. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Thanks. Do I know you?" "Not yet," he grinned, showing perfect teeth. "But you will. Dance with me." She hesitated. There was something wild about him that scared her a little, but also thrilled her. "I don't even know your name." "Vincenzo. And yours?" "Sophia." He took her hand gently but firmly. "Come on, Sophia. One dance." As they moved to the dance floor, the music loud and the lights swirling, Vincenzo pulled her close. His hands on her waist felt possessive already. Sophia's heart raced. What was happening? Earlier that night, Lorenzo's quiet stare had made her feel seen. Now this man was like a fire, burning hot and fast. Back at the restaurant, Lorenzo finished his meal and asked the manager about the waitress named Sophia. He learned she was single, hardworking, lived alone. A small smile crossed his face. He would see her again. Little did Sophia know that one night had put her in the middle of two powerful men. Lorenzo, calculated and soft only for her. Vincenzo, impulsive and ready to fight for what he claimed. The sparks were just starting. Sophia Rossi woke up the next morning with a strange feeling in her chest. The night before still played in her mind, the quiet, intense way that customer at the restaurant had looked at her, and then the wild energy of Vincenzo pulling her onto the dance floor. She shook her head, trying to push it all away. She was just a waitress. Men like that didn't really notice women like her. Not for long, anyway. Sophia stood in front of her small mirror, tying her long wavy dark brown hair into a neat ponytail. Her deep brown eyes looked a little tired, but she forced a smile. She slipped into her usual work outfit, the crisp white blouse, black skirt, and comfortable flats. Her olive skin still had a healthy glow, even after the late night. She grabbed her bag and headed out of her tiny apartment in the Navigli district, where canals ran through the streets and life felt a bit more real than the fancy parts of Milan. By evening, she was back at Illinois Luogo, the restaurant buzzing as always. The smell of fresh pasta and grilled meat filled the air. Sofia moved from table to table, smiling, taking orders, making sure everyone felt taken care of. She liked her job most days. The tips were good, and the people were usually polite. What she didn't know was that someone was watching her closer than ever. Lorenzo Moretti sat in a private office upstairs, hidden behind a one-way mirror that looked down over the dining room. He had owned Illinois Luogo for years, but he kept it quiet. On paper, it belonged to a distant cousin. In reality, it was one of the cleanest ways he moved money in his world. Tonight, he wasn't checking numbers. He was watching Sofia. Lorenzo leaned back in his leather chair, his piercing green eyes following her every move. His short black hair was perfectly in place, and he wore a dark grey suit that fit him just right. The expensive watch on his wrist caught the light as he rested his chin on his hand. He had spent the morning learning more about her, where she lived, that she had no family in Milan, that she paid her rent on time every month. She was strong, independent. He liked that. Down on the floor, Sofia felt eyes on her again. She glanced around but saw nothing unusual. Just the usual crowd of well-dressed people enjoying their dinners. Near the end of her shift, the manager, a nervous man named Paolo with thinning grey hair and pale skin, came up to her. "Sofia, the boss wants to see you upstairs before you leave." She frowned. "The boss? You mean the owner? I've never met him." Paolo just nodded quickly. "Just go up when you're done. Office at the end of the hall." Sofia's stomach twisted a little. She wasn't in trouble, was she? She always did her job well. After wiping down her last table, she took a deep breath and walked up the narrow stairs. Her heart beat faster with every step. She knocked softly on the door. "Come in," a deep, familiar voice said. Sofia opened the door and stepped inside. There he was, the man from last night. Lorenzo. He stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking even more handsome in the soft office light. His green eyes locked onto hers right away. "You?" Sofia said, surprised. "You're the customer from yesterday." Lorenzo gave a small smile. "And the owner of this place. Lorenzo Moretti." He walked closer, slow and calm. "I like to keep that quiet." Sofia stood there, trying to process it. "So, why tell me now?" "Because I wanted you to know who I am," he said simply. "And because I've been watching you work. You're good at what you do. Honest. Kind to people, even when they don't deserve it." She felt her cheeks warm up. "Thank you. I just do my job." "I saw that," Lorenzo said. He stepped a little closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something clean and expensive. "Most people here are fake. They smile because they have to. You smile because it's who you are." Sofia looked up at him. There was danger in his eyes, something dark underneath the charm, but also something gentle when he looked at her. It confused her. Scared her a little. Excited her too. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "You don't have to say anything," Lorenzo replied. "But I'd like to take you to dinner. Not here. Somewhere real. Tomorrow night." Sofia's heart raced. This man owned the restaurant. He was powerful. Rich. And he was asking her out. Part of her wanted to say yes. The other part screamed that this was trouble. I have to think about it," she said softly. Lorenzo nodded, like he expected that. "Fair enough. Take your time." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, simple, black, with just his name and a phone number. He handed it to her, his fingers brushing hers again. That same spark from before. As she took the card, their eyes met and held. For a moment, the room felt smaller, warmer. Downstairs, Sofia finished up in a daze. She said goodnight to her co-workers and stepped out into the cool Milan night. The streets were quieter now, just a few people walking home. She didn't notice the black car parked across the street. Inside, Vincenzo Ricci sat watching. He had followed her from the club last night, just to make sure she got home safe. Tonight, he had come to the restaurant, hoping to see her again. He saw her leave, looking shaken but beautiful under the streetlights. Vincenzo's hazel eyes narrowed. He had asked around about Illinois Luogo. Everyone knew it belonged to Lorenzo Moretti, his rival. The man he hated most in this city. And now Lorenzo was talking to Sofia. Getting close to her. Vincenzo gripped the steering wheel tight, his knuckles turning white. No. She wasn't his yet. But she would be. Sofia walked home, the business card in her pocket feeling heavier than it should. She felt watched, but when she looked around, no one was there. Still, a shiver ran down her spine. Something had changed tonight. She could feel it. Danger was close, but so was something else, something that pulled at her heart in ways she didn't understand yet. She had no idea that two powerful men were already drawing lines in the sand. And she was right in the middle. Sofia Rossi felt like the air in Milan had turned thicker overnight. Every step she took, every breath, carried a strange heat she couldn't explain. She stood in her small bathroom that morning, brushing out her long wavy dark brown hair before pulling it into a loose ponytail for work. Her deep brown eyes stared back at her in the mirror, wider than usual, like they knew something she didn't yet. Her olive skin still held a flush from restless dreams, dreams filled with strong hands and low voices. By the time her shift started at Illinois Luogo, her body felt alive in a way it hadn't before. The black skirt hugged her hips a little tighter, or maybe she was just more aware of it. The white blouse brushed against her skin with every move, reminding her she was a woman, not just a waitress rushing around. Lorenzo Moretti was already there, watching from his upstairs office again. He leaned against the one-way glass, arms crossed over his broad chest. His short black hair caught the low light, and his piercing green eyes followed Sofia like she was the only person in the room. He wore a fitted black shirt tonight, top buttons undone just enough to show the strong line of his throat and a hint of tanned olive skin. He hadn't planned on coming in, but after Vincenzo's visit yesterday, he needed to see her. Down on the floor, Sofia felt those eyes again. She glanced up toward the mirror she didn't know was there, a shiver running down her spine. It made her nipples tighten against the fabric of her blouse, and she quickly looked away, cheeks warming. Halfway through the night, the door to the private upstairs room opened. Lorenzo came down the stairs slowly, every step deliberate. Heads turned, staff and customers alike knew power when they saw it. He walked straight to the bar, where Sofia was picking up drinks. "Sofia," he said, his deep voice cutting through the restaurant noise like it was meant only for her. She turned, tray in hand, and their eyes locked. Up close, he smelled like expensive cologne and something darker, more male. "Mr. Moretti," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Lorenzo," he corrected softly. He reached out, taking the heavy tray from her hands without asking. His fingers brushed hers, warm, strong, lingering just a second longer than needed. "You shouldn't carry so much." Her breath caught. The simple touch sent heat straight through her. I do it every night." "Not anymore," he said, setting the tray down. He didn't step back. He stayed close, close enough that she could feel the warmth coming off his body. "Have you thought about dinner?" Sofia swallowed. Yes. And? Before she could answer, the front door opened with force. Vincenzo Ricci strode in like a storm. His messy dark hair was windswept, hazel eyes scanning the room until they landed on her, and then on Lorenzo standing too close. Vincenzo's jaw tightened. He crossed the room in long strides, his muscular frame tense under the black leather jacket. "Sofia," he said, voice rough. "You look beautiful tonight." Lorenzo didn't move, but his green eyes hardened as he turned to face the newcomer. Vincenzo ignored him at first, stepping right up to Sofia. He reached out, gently tucking a loose strand of her wavy hair behind her ear. His thumb grazed her cheek, slow and deliberate. "I've been thinking about you," he murmured, low enough that only she and Lorenzo could hear. "About how you felt in my arms on that dance floor." Sofia's heart slammed against her ribs. Vincenzo's touch was fire, bold, demanding. She should step back, but her body didn't want to move. Lorenzo's hand settled lightly on her lower back, a quiet claim. The heat from his palm burned through her blouse. "She's working," Lorenzo said calmly, but there was steel in his voice. Vincenzo's eyes flicked to Lorenzo's hand, then up to his face. "And you're in the way." The two men stared at each other, inches from Sofia, their bodies radiating tension and something more primal. She was trapped between them, Lorenzo's steady, controlled heat at her back, Vincenzo's wild energy in front of her. Both touching her. Both wanting her. Sofia's breath came faster. She could feel her pulse between her legs now, a throbbing ache that made her shift slightly. Neither man missed it. Vincenzo leaned in closer, his lips almost brushing her ear. "Leave with me tonight," he whispered. "I'll show you how good it can feel to be wanted this much." Lorenzo's fingers pressed firmer against her back, sliding just a fraction lower, possessive, promising. "Or stay," he said against her other ear, voice like velvet. "And let me show you slowly." Sofia's knees felt weak. The restaurant noise faded away. All she could feel was them, their heat, their want, the way both men were looking at her like she was everything. I need to finish my shift," she managed, voice husky. Vincenzo's hand dropped to her waist, thumb tracing the curve there. "I'll wait." Lorenzo's hand stayed where it was, warm and unmoving. "So will I." For a long moment, no one moved. The air crackled with unspoken promises, touches that hadn't happened yet, kisses held back, bodies that wanted to press closer. Finally, Sofia stepped away, breaking the spell. But as she walked to her next table, she could feel both sets of eyes on her, burning into her skin, following the sway of her hips. She was shaking a little, aroused in a way that scared her and thrilled her at the same time. Two dangerous men. Both touching her. Both claiming her in their own way. And deep down, a small voice whispered that she wasn't sure she wanted either of them to stop. The night had just gotten hotter, and Sofia knew this was only the beginning. Sofia Rossi walked into Illinois Luogo that evening knowing exactly what kind of night it would be. The air felt charged, like the moments before a summer storm in Milan. She had spent the whole day thinking about Lorenzo's steady touch on her back, about Vincenzo's hot breath against her ear. Two powerful men wanted her, and for the first time in her life, Sofia realized she wasn't powerless. She could play this game too. She let her long wavy dark brown hair fall loose over her shoulders tonight instead of tying it back. The soft waves framed her face, making her deep brown eyes look even warmer, more inviting. Her olive skin glowed under the restaurant lights, and she had chosen a blouse that hugged her curves just a little more than usual. Nothing obvious, just enough to turn heads. Lorenzo noticed the second she stepped through the staff door. He was already there, sitting at his usual quiet table in the corner instead of upstairs. His piercing green eyes tracked her as she moved, taking in the way the fabric shifted against her body. He wore a deep navy suit tonight, jacket open, white shirt stretched across his chest. When she passed close, he caught her wrist gently. "Sofia," he said, voice low. "Sit with me for a minute." She smiled, letting her fingers linger in his grasp. "I'm on shift, Lorenzo. You know the rules." He didn't let go right away. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist, slow and deliberate, sending heat straight up her arm. Then after, "I have something for you." Before she could answer, the door to the restaurant opened again. Vincenzo walked in like he owned the night. His messy dark hair caught the light, hazel eyes locking on her immediately. He wore a black shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves pushed up to show strong forearms. He didn't even glance at Lorenzo at first, he just headed straight for her. "Bellissima," Vincenzo said, voice rough with want. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. "This made me think of you." Sofia's eyes widened as he opened it. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a tiny diamond pendant that caught the light beautifully. It was expensive, tasteful, and impossible to miss. "Vincenzo, I can't," she started. "You can," he cut in, stepping closer. He took the necklace out and moved behind her. "Let me." Lorenzo watched from his table, jaw tight, green eyes darkening. Sofia felt Vincenzo's warm fingers brush the back of her neck as he fastened the chain. The cool metal settled against her skin, just above the curve of her breasts. Vincenzo's hands lingered, sliding down her shoulders before he stepped back. "Looks perfect," he murmured, eyes dropping to where the pendant rested. Sofia turned to him, letting her hand touch the necklace lightly. "It's beautiful. Thank you." Across the room, Lorenzo stood up slowly. He pulled a long, slim box from his suit pocket and walked over. The two men faced each other, Sofia caught between them again. "I was going to wait," Lorenzo said calmly, but his voice carried an edge. He opened the box to reveal a pair of diamond earrings, simple, elegant, and clearly worth more than the necklace. "But some people have no patience." Vincenzo's smile turned sharp. "Some people know when a woman deserves to be spoiled now, not later." Sofia felt the heat rising in her cheeks, and lower. Both men standing so close, both giving her gifts, both looking at her like they wanted to claim her right there in the middle of the restaurant. She took a slow breath, then reached out and gently closed Lorenzo's box. "They're both stunning," she said softly, looking from one to the other. "But I can't wear either right now. I'm working." She let her fingers trail lightly over Vincenzo's hand as she spoke, then turned and brushed Lorenzo's arm with the same soft touch. "You'll have to wait and see which one I choose, if I choose any." Both men froze for a second, caught off guard. She was playing them. And they liked it. Later, when the restaurant slowed down, Lorenzo found her in the back hallway near the kitchen. He backed her gently against the wall, one hand braced beside her head. "You're enjoying this," he said, voice low and husky. His green eyes searched hers. "Making us chase you." Sofia tilted her head up, close enough that her lips almost brushed his. "Maybe I just like knowing two men want me this much." His other hand came up, fingers tracing the necklace at her throat, Vincenzo's gift. "I don't share, Sofia." She smiled slowly. "Then you'll have to work harder to make sure I only want you." His breath hitched. For a moment, she thought he might kiss her right there. Instead, he leaned in, lips brushing her ear. "I will." Not 10 minutes later, Vincenzo cornered her near the bar. He pressed close, one hand on her hip, thumb stroking the fabric of her skirt. "That necklace looks good on you," he growled. "But I'd rather see you wearing only that." Heat pooled low in her belly. She placed a hand on his chest, feeling the hard muscle under his shirt. "You're very sure of yourself." "I know what I want," he said, eyes dropping to her mouth. "And I take it." Sofia let her fingers slide down his chest slowly before stepping back. "Not yet, you don't." She walked away, feeling his stare burning into her back. Over the next few days, the gifts kept coming. Lorenzo sent roses to her apartment, deep red, perfect, with a note that simply said, "Thinking of you." Vincenzo showed up one morning with coffee and pastries, leaning against her doorframe, watching her sip with that hungry look in his hazel eyes. Sofia accepted every gift, every gesture. She wore the necklace one day, the earrings the next. She let Lorenzo drive her home once, his hand resting possessively on her thigh the whole way. She let Vincenzo pull her into a dark corner of a club another night, his mouth hot against her neck, hands gripping her waist like he never wanted to let go. But she never let either go too far. She dropped small comments, telling Lorenzo how strong Vincenzo seemed, mentioning to Vincenzo how thoughtful Lorenzo could be. She let them see each other's gifts, let them catch glimpses of the other's touch. She played innocent, but inside, she was turning them against each other, making them compete harder, want her more. Because Sofia was clever. She knew these men were dangerous. But for now, she held the power. And it felt good. Little did they know, she was only getting started. Word count: 1,238. The games are getting dangerous now, and Sofia is playing them both like a pro. Who do you think she's leaning toward, Lorenzo or Vincenzo? Or is she just enjoying the power? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to say what city you're watching from. If this chapter had you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe. You won't believe what happens next. Sofia Rossi sat alone in her small apartment after a long shift. the lights dim and the Milan night quiet outside her window. She held a glass of cheap red wine, staring at the necklace Vincenzo gave her and the earrings from Lorenzo sitting side by side on the table. Both beautiful. Both dangerous. She touched the faint scar on her left wrist, a thin white line most people never noticed. A reminder of a life she thought she had left behind years ago. She had come to Milan 5 years earlier to disappear. Back in Naples, her name hadn't been Sofia Rossi. It had been Sofia De Luca, daughter of a small-time accountant who worked for one of the old Camorra families. Her father had made one terrible mistake: he skimmed money from the wrong people. When they came for him, Sofia was only 19. She hid in the closet and heard everything: the shouts, the pleas, the single gunshot. They found her too, dragged her out, and one of the men held a knife to her wrist, ready to send a message. But someone higher up stopped it. "The girl walks," the voice had said. "She's not part of this." She ran that night and never looked back. New name, new city, new life. She thought it was buried forever. But secrets have a way of rising up when you least expect them. At Illinois Luogo the next evening, Sofia moved through her tables with her usual warm smile. Her long wavy dark brown hair was loose again, brushing her shoulders as she leaned over to take orders. Her deep brown eyes still sparkled, but there was a new caution in them. She wore Vincenzo's necklace tonight, the little diamond resting just above the neckline of her blouse. Julia, her best friend since she started at the restaurant, waved her over during a quiet moment. Julia had fair skin, straight blonde hair cut to her shoulders, bright blue eyes, and always wore trendy makeup with her uniform. They had shared coffee breaks, late-night talks, secrets, or so Sofia thought. "Sofia, you look tired," Julia said, pulling her into the staff room. "Everything okay?" Sofia hesitated. "Just a lot on my mind. These two guys won't leave me alone." Julia's eyes widened with excitement. "The hot rich ones. Girl, enjoy it. Most women would kill for that kind of attention." Sofia forced a laugh. "It's not that simple." Julia lowered her voice. "Listen, one of them asked about you. The dark-haired one with the green eyes. Lorenzo. He wanted to know if you ever talk about your family, where you're really from." Sofia's stomach dropped. "When was this?" "A couple days ago. I didn't tell him anything. You said your parents passed away young, right? That's all I know." Sofia nodded slowly, but fear crept up her spine. Lorenzo was digging. And if he found out who she really was? That same night, Vincenzo showed up again. He waited until the restaurant slowed, then pulled her gently into the hallway near the restrooms where it was quieter. "I need to see you tonight," he said, his hazel eyes intense. He cupped her face with one hand, thumb stroking her cheek. "Not here. Somewhere private." His touch still set her body on fire, but tonight something felt off. "Vincenzo, slow down. We barely know each other." He leaned in, lips brushing hers lightly, teasing, promising more. "I know enough. I know I can't stop thinking about you." Before she could answer, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from an unknown number. "Sofia De Luca. We found you. Run." Her blood turned to ice. She pulled away from Vincenzo so fast he frowned. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing," she lied, voice shaking. I have to go." She rushed back to the staff room to grab her bag. Julia was there, on her phone. When Sofia walked in, Julia looked up, and there was something in her eyes. Guilt. Fear. "Julia, did you tell anyone about me? Anyone at all?" Julia's face went pale. "What? No, of course not." But Sofia saw it, the quick glance away, the nervous bite of her lip. "Who was it?" Sofia whispered. "Who did you talk to?" Julia's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. This man came to me a week ago. Said he was an old friend of your father's. He gave me money, a lot of money, just to tell him if you ever seemed scared, or if anyone was asking questions about your past. I thought he was trying to help you. I swear, Sofia, I would never hurt you." Sofia felt like the floor dropped out from under her. Her closest friend had betrayed her for cash. Who was the man? She asked quietly. He didn't give a name. But he mentioned the Ricci family. Said they used to know your dad. Vincenzo's family. Sofia backed away, heart pounding. Both men, Lorenzo and Vincenzo, were connected to the world that killed her father. And now someone was hunting her again, using Julia to watch. She grabbed her coat and ran out the back door into the cool Milan night. The alleys behind the restaurant were dark and narrow. She walked fast, head down, trying to calm her breathing. A black car pulled up slowly beside her. The window rolled down, and Lorenzo looked out. Sofia. Get in. You look like you've seen a ghost. She froze. Could she trust him? Did he already know? I'm fine, she said. You're not. His green eyes were soft but serious. Let me take you home, please. Against her better judgment, she got in. The car smelled like leather and his cologne. As they drove, she stared out the window, fighting tears. Who are you really afraid of? Lorenzo asked quietly. She turned to him, eyes wet. How much do you know? He reached over and took her hand. Enough to know someone is looking for you. And enough to want to keep you safe. Sofia pulled her hand away. Your world killed my father. And Vincenzo's family, they're part of it too. Lorenzo's face darkened. I'm not them, Sofia. I swear. Whatever happened back then, I had no part in it. She wanted to believe him. The way he looked at her, gentle and strong, made her heart ache. Back at her apartment, he walked her to the door. He cupped her face, thumb wiping away a tear. No one will touch you, he promised. Not while I'm breathing. Then he kissed her, slow, deep, full of something that felt like real protection. She kissed him back, clinging to him for a moment, needing to feel safe. But as he drove away, her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Choose wrong, and you end up like your father. Sofia stood in her doorway, torn and terrified. The two men fighting over her were tied to her darkest past. Her friend had betrayed her. Someone wanted her scared, or dead. And for the first time, she wasn't sure she could play the game anymore. Sofia Rossi hadn't slept well in days. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her father's face or felt the cold blade that left the scar on her wrist. The texts kept coming, short, cruel messages from the unknown number. Time's running out, Sofia De Luca. She had changed her phone number twice, but they always found the new one. Someone close was still feeding information. She stood in front of her mirror that evening, getting ready for work. Her long wavy dark brown hair fell loose around her shoulders, framing her tired deep brown eyes. Her olive skin looked a little paler than usual, but she forced herself to put on a touch of makeup. She slipped on the simple black dress she sometimes wore when the restaurant hosted private events. Tonight was one of those nights. A big birthday party for a local businessman had booked the entire place. Lots of people, lots of eyes. Maybe that would keep her safe. Lorenzo had texted earlier. I'll have men watching the door. You're safe tonight. Vincenzo had called. Come straight to me when you arrive. No games tonight, Sofia. She didn't reply to either. Illinois Luogo was packed when she walked in. Music played softly, laughter filled the room, glasses clinked. Fairy lights twinkled along the walls, and the tables were covered in white linen. Sofia moved through the crowd with her tray, smiling like everything was normal. But her heart raced every time the door opened. Lorenzo was already there, standing near the bar in a perfectly tailored black suit that made his broad shoulders look even stronger. His short black hair was neat, piercing green eyes scanning the room until they landed on her. He gave her a small nod, calm and reassuring. Minutes later, the door opened again. Vincenzo walked in with 3 of his men. His messy dark hair caught the light, hazel eyes finding Sofia instantly. He wore a dark shirt open at the collar, leather jacket slung over one shoulder like he didn't care about the dress code. People parted for him without realizing why. Vincenzo didn't even look at Lorenzo at first. He walked straight to Sofia, took the tray from her hands, and set it on a nearby table. Dance with me, he said, not asking. His hand wrapped around hers, warm and firm. Vincenzo, it's a work night. Now, he said, voice low. He pulled her gently but unmistakably toward the small open space where a few couples were swaying to the music. Across the room, Lorenzo's eyes darkened. He set his drink down and started walking over. Sophia felt Vincenzo's hand settle on her lower back, pulling her close. His body was hard against hers, heat coming off him in waves. "You've been avoiding me," he murmured against her ear. "That ends tonight." "I've been scared," she admitted, voice shaking a little. "Someone knows who I am. They're threatening me." His grip tightened, protective and possessive. "Tell me who. I'll handle it." Before she could answer, Lorenzo was there. He stepped right up behind her, close enough that she was trapped between the two men again. "Take your hands off her," Lorenzo said quietly, but every word carried. Vincenzo turned his head slowly. The music kept playing, people kept chatting, but a small circle around them had gone quiet. Eyes started to turn. "She's with me," Vincenzo replied, not moving his hand from her waist. "She works here. In my restaurant. And she doesn't belong to anyone." Guests were staring now. Phones came out slowly. A few people whispered, recognizing the names or just feeling the danger in the air. Sophia's heart pounded. "Stop. Both of you. Not here." But Vincenzo wasn't listening. He pulled her even closer, his other hand coming up to cup the back of her neck. "Tell him," he said, eyes locked on hers. "Tell him you're coming home with me tonight." Lorenzo's hand landed on Vincenzo's shoulder, hard. "I said let her go." Vincenzo spun, shoving Lorenzo back. Lorenzo didn't stumble far. He straightened his jacket, green eyes ice cold. One of Vincenzo's men stepped forward. One of Lorenzo's appeared from the shadows near the bar. Suddenly there were 4 large men squaring up, hands sliding inside jackets. Sophia felt panic rise. "Please," she whispered. "People are watching." A woman nearby gasped. Someone muttered, "Call the police." Vincenzo ignored it all. He looked at Sophia, then at Lorenzo, then back at her. Something wild flashed in his hazel eyes. Before anyone could react, Vincenzo grabbed Sophia's face with both hands and kissed her, hard, deep, right there in front of everyone. His mouth claimed hers like he was marking territory, no softness, just raw possession. She froze for a second, shock and heat flooding her body at the same time. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones lifted higher. Lorenzo's face turned to stone. He grabbed Vincenzo's arm and yanked him back, breaking the kiss. Vincenzo laughed once, short and dangerous. "She's mine now. You saw it. Everyone saw it." Lorenzo looked at Sophia, searching her face. She was breathing hard, lips swollen, eyes wide with fear and confusion. Then Lorenzo did something no one expected. He pulled Sophia to him, gentle but firm, tilted her chin up, and kissed her too. Slower than Vincenzo, deeper, like he was promising safety and forever in one moment. His hand cradled the back of her head, the other steady on her waist. The room went dead silent. When he pulled back, his green eyes never left hers. "No," he said quietly, loud enough for Vincenzo and everyone close to hear. "She's mine." Vincenzo's smile vanished. His fists clenched. For a long second, the 2 men stared at each other over Sophia's shoulder. Guns were one twitch away. Blood felt seconds from spilling in front of 50 witnesses. Sophia's voice broke the silence. "Enough." She pushed away from both of them, tears in her eyes. "I'm not a prize. I'm not something you fight over in public like animals." She turned and ran toward the back exit, pushing through the kitchen doors. Staff jumped out of her way. Outside in the cool alley, she leaned against the brick wall, chest heaving. Tears fell now, hot and angry. Moments later, the door opened. Both men had followed. "Sophia," Lorenzo started. "Stay back," she snapped, holding up a hand. "Both of you." Vincenzo stepped closer anyway. "You felt it. That kiss. You can't deny it." Lorenzo moved to her other side. "And you felt mine. Tell me which one you want." She looked between them. 2 powerful, dangerous men who had just risked everything in front of the world to claim her. I don't want either of you right now, she said, voice breaking. Not like this. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone inside had called the police. Vincenzo cursed under his breath. Lorenzo looked at her one last time, pain in his green eyes. This isn't over, Vincenzo said. For tonight, it is, Lorenzo replied. They disappeared in different directions as red and blue lights flashed at the end of the alley. Sophia slid down the wall, sitting on the cold ground, hugging her knees. She had never felt more wanted. She had never felt more terrified. Sophia Rossi hadn't gone back to work since the night of the kisses. She called in sick, locked her doors, and barely ate. Every noise outside her apartment made her jump. The threatening texts had stopped, but the silence felt worse, like someone was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. On the third night, a hard knock shook her door. She froze in the kitchen, holding a glass of water. Sophia, it's me. Open up. Lorenzo's voice, low and urgent. She looked through the peephole. He stood alone in the hallway, no car, no men. His short black hair was messy for the first time she'd ever seen, green eyes tired and worried. He wore a simple black sweater and jeans, like he didn't want to draw attention. She opened the door a crack, chain still on. I told you both I needed space. I know, he said quietly. But this can't wait. Let me in. Please. Something in his voice made her undo the chain. He stepped inside, closed the door softly, and looked at her, really looked. Her long wavy dark brown hair was piled in a messy bun, deep brown eyes red from lack of sleep, olive skin pale. She wore an old oversized t-shirt and leggings, feet bare. You're not eating, he said, noticing the empty counters. I'm fine. You're not. He took a folded paper from his pocket and held it out. Read this. She took it with shaking hands. It was a photocopy of an old document, yellowed, official-looking, stamped with Camorra seals from Naples. At the top, a marriage certificate. Her breath stopped. The names read, Marco De Luca and Elena Moretti. Her father, and Lorenzo's sister. Sophia's knees buckled. She sank onto the couch, staring at the paper. This can't be real. It is, Lorenzo said, sitting beside her but not too close. My sister Elena ran away when she was 19. Fell in love with a man my family didn't approve of, your father. They got married in secret. Then she disappeared. We thought she died. My father told us she was killed because of who she loved. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. My father never told me he was married before my mom. He had a photo of a woman in his wallet. Dark hair, green eyes. I thought it was an old girlfriend. It was Elena, Lorenzo whispered. My sister. Sophia, you're my niece. The room spun. She looked at him, searching his face for any lie. But his green eyes she'd found so beautiful, now looked painfully familiar. She had seen them in that old photo. No, she breathed. That would mean. I didn't know, he said quickly. Not until 2 days ago. I had someone dig deeper into your past after the threat started. The dates line up. The scar on your wrist, my father ordered that night. He wanted to punish Marco, but when he learned Elena had already died in childbirth, he let you live. Said the child carried Moretti blood. Sophia covered her mouth, tears spilling over. All this time she had been terrified of the Mafia world, hating the men who destroyed her family, while one of the men chasing her was family. I wanted you before I knew, Lorenzo said, voice breaking. That night I first saw you working, it wasn't just attraction. It felt like something deeper. Now I understand why. She shook her head, overwhelmed. I can't process this. There was a sudden crash at the window. Glass shattered. A black-gloved hand reached in and unlocked it from outside. Vincenzo climbed through like a shadow, hazel eyes wild. He had a gun in one hand, pointed at Lorenzo. Get away from her, Vincenzo snarled. Sophia screamed. Vincenzo, stop. Lorenzo stood slowly, hands raised. Put it down. You don't understand. I understand enough, Vincenzo said. You've been lying to her. using her past to control her. I just found out who's been sending those threats, your own men, trying to scare her into your arms. That's not true, Lorenzo said, voice steady but eyes flashing. I just learned the truth myself. Vincenzo's hand shook. Liar. My family looked into it. The orders came from Moretti territory. Sofia stood between them, heart pounding. Both of you, stop. Vincenzo, lower the gun. He didn't. His eyes never left Lorenzo. He's been playing you from the start. Sofia. Come with me. Now. I'll keep you safe. Lorenzo took a step forward. She's blood, Vincenzo. My blood. Elena Moretti was her mother. The gun wavered. Vincenzo's face went white. What? It's true, Sofia whispered. He's my uncle. Silence fell heavy in the small apartment. Vincenzo stared at Lorenzo, then at Sofia, the pieces clicking in his head. All those years ago, the bad blood between the Moretti and Ricci families had started with a forbidden love. Marco De Luca working for the Riccis, falling for Elena Moretti, running away together. When Elena died giving birth to Sofia, both families blamed the other. The war that followed had killed dozens. And now the daughter they never knew existed was the woman both bosses had fallen for. Vincenzo lowered the gun slowly, shock replacing rage. Dio mio. Lorenzo spoke first. The threats aren't from me. Someone else knows. Someone who wants the war to start again. Vincenzo ran a hand through his messy hair. My people intercepted a message tonight. An old captain, Ricci sighed, plans to take Sofia out tomorrow. Use her death to blame you and restart everything. Sofia wrapped her arms around herself. Why? After all this time? Because peace is bad for business, Lorenzo said bitterly. Some old men want the old ways back. Territory fights. Blood. For the first time, the two rivals looked at each other without hate. We stop this, Vincenzo said. Together. Just this once. Lorenzo nodded. For her. Sofia looked between them, her uncle she never knew she had, and the man whose kiss still burned on her lips. Enemies forced to stand side by side because of her. I don't want anyone else to die because of me, she said, voice breaking. Not again. Vincenzo stepped closer, holstering his gun. No one touches you. Not ever. Lorenzo reached out and gently touched her arm. Family, not desire this time. You're not alone anymore, Sofia. For one fragile moment, the three of them stood there in the broken glass and moonlight. Two bosses who had nearly destroyed each other over a woman, now united to protect the one secret that could end them all. But outside, in the dark Milan streets, old enemies were already moving. And time was running out. The rain came down hard on Milan that night, turning the old abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city into a place that felt alive with danger. Water poured through broken windows high up, and the few hanging bulbs swayed, throwing shadows everywhere. The air smelled like wet concrete and something electric, like the storm wasn't just outside. Sofia stood in the middle of the empty space, heart beating so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. She wore a thin black raincoat that clung to her body from the rain, open just enough to show the tight sweater and jeans underneath. Water dripped from her long wavy dark brown hair, sliding down her neck and disappearing under her collar. Her deep brown eyes were wide, lips parted as she breathed fast. She felt every drop on her skin like a touch. Lorenzo stood close on her left, his black coat hanging open. Rain had soaked his shirt, making the fabric stick to his hard chest and stomach. His short black hair was wet and messy, water tracing slow paths down his strong jaw and throat. Those piercing green eyes kept flicking to her, hungry, protective, and something darker now that everything had changed. Vincenzo paced on her right, leather jacket thrown open, black shirt plastered to every muscle. Rain made his messy dark hair fall into his hazel eyes, and when he looked at her, it was pure fire. His chest rose and fell fast, like he was holding himself back from grabbing her right there. The tension between the three of them was thicker than the storm. Lorenzo broke the silence first, voice low and rough. They're coming. 5 men. The old captain thinks he can end this tonight. Vincenzo's eyes never left Sofia. My snipers are ready. No one touches her. Sofia shivered, not from cold. Being this close to both of them again, after everything, made her body burn. She could feel the heat coming off them, smell the rain on their skin mixed with cologne and raw want. Headlights cut through the darkness outside. Engines growled. The big door rolled up, and 5 men walked in, Antonio Ricci leading, grey hair slicked back, scar across his face ugly in the dim light. His men spread out, guns ready. Antonio smiled when he saw the 3 of them. Look at this. The girl in the middle of her 2 dogs. His eyes crawled over Sofia's wet clothes, lingering too long. Maybe I'll keep you for myself before I kill you. Vincenzo stepped forward, body tense. Touch her and you die slow. Lorenzo moved closer to Sofia, his arm brushing hers. The simple contact sent heat straight between her legs. She's not yours to touch. Not anyone's. Antonio laughed and pulled a gun. His men did the same. Then he snapped his fingers. One thug dragged Julia forward, bound, gagged, terrified. Blonde hair wet and tangled, blue eyes pleading. Sofia gasped. Let her go. Antonio ripped the gag off. Julia sobbed. They forced me, Sofia. After the first betrayal, they said they'd kill my little brother if I didn't keep telling them where you were. Another knife in the heart. Vincenzo's fists clenched. You used her friend. You piece of. Antonio turned his gun on Vincenzo. Time for new blood to lead the family, boy. You're too busy chasing this one. His eyes flicked to Sofia's body again. Everything happened fast. One of Antonio's own men suddenly shot him in the shoulder. Betrayal from inside. Antonio roared and fired back. Vincenzo and Lorenzo moved at the same time, guns out, firing clean shots that dropped 2 men instantly. The last thug went down from a sniper bullet through the window. The warehouse went quiet except for rain and Antonio's wet breathing on the floor. Vincenzo kicked the gun away from his uncle's hand. It's over. Antonio spat blood, laughing weakly. You two, standing together, over her body. Pathetic. Sofia untied Julia quickly, pushing her toward the door. Go. Run. Don't look back. Julia ran, disappearing into the storm. Now it was just the 3 of them again. Lorenzo ordered his men to clean up. Then he turned to Sofia, green eyes burning. He stepped close, too close, his wet shirt brushing her chest. It's done. You're safe. His hand came up, slow, thumb tracing a raindrop down her cheek, then her neck, stopping just above the swell of her breast. His touch was fire. She remembered the kiss in the restaurant, how gentle and deep it had been, how he had tasted like promise. Her breath hitched. Her nipples hardened under the wet fabric, obvious even through her sweater. Vincenzo watched them, jaw tight. Then he moved in from behind her, pressing his hard body against her back. His hand slid around her waist, pulling her tight against him. She could feel every inch of him, how much he wanted her, pressing hot and heavy through their wet clothes. You chose wrong if you think he can give you what you need, Vincenzo growled against her ear, lips brushing the sensitive skin. One hand slid up, stopping just under her breast, thumb stroking slow circles that made her tremble. Sofia's head fell back against Vincenzo's shoulder. A soft moan escaped her lips. She was trapped between them, Lorenzo in front, Vincenzo behind, both touching her, both breathing hard. Lorenzo's eyes darkened as he watched her react to Vincenzo's touch. His hand moved lower, fingers tracing the waistband of her jeans, teasing the skin just above. Tell me to stop, he said, voice rough. Tell me you don't want this. She couldn't. Vincenzo's mouth found her neck, teeth grazing, then sucking hard enough to leave a mark. His hips rolled against her slowly, deliberately, letting her feel exactly what she did to him. Lorenzo leaned in, lips almost touching hers. Or tell me you want us both, he whispered. Right here. Right now. The air crackled. Rain pounded. Sofia's body was on fire, every nerve screaming for more. She reached up, grabbed Lorenzo's wet shirt, and pulled him into a fierce kiss. He groaned into her mouth, hands finally cupping her breasts, thumbs circling until she arched against him. Vincenzo's hand slid lower, fingers dipping just inside her waistband, teasing the edge of her underwear. "That's it," he murmured against her skin. "Let go." She broke the kiss with Lorenzo only to turn her head and claim Vincenzo's mouth. Wild, desperate, tongues sliding together. Lorenzo's lips moved to her throat, kissing and biting the other side. Both men pressed closer, hands roaming, bodies grinding. The storm, the danger, the secrets, all of it exploded into pure, raw need. Then Sophia pulled back, breathing hard, lips swollen, eyes glazed. "No," she said, voice shaking with want. "Not like this. Not while everything's still broken." Both men froze, chests heaving, eyes dark with frustration and respect. Vincenzo rested his forehead against hers. "When you're ready. I'll be waiting." Lorenzo stepped back first, giving her space, though his hands clenched like it hurt to let go. "You choose, Sophia. Always." He walked out into the rain. Vincenzo kissed her once more, soft, promising, then followed. Sophia stood alone in the warehouse, body still throbbing, heart racing. The old war was dead. But the fire between them had only just begun. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving Milan clean and quiet, like the city itself was trying to wash away the blood from the night before. Sophia Rossi sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the faint bruises on her neck where Vincenzo's mouth had been. Her body still hummed with the memory of being pressed between the two men in that warehouse. Lorenzo's slow, controlled hands and Vincenzo's rough, desperate grip. She could still taste both of them on her lips. But the fire that had almost consumed them all had cooled into something colder. Reality. She had chosen Vincenzo. Not just with her body, but with her future. And that choice wasn't only about love. It was power. Vincenzo Ricci stood in his penthouse across town, looking out over the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. His messy dark hair was still damp from the shower, a towel slung low around his hips. Water traced the lines of muscle down his chest and stomach. His hazel eyes were hard, not soft like they had been when he kissed her in the rain. He had won the girl. But winning Sophia meant more than a warm body in his bed. She was the living proof that the Moretti and Ricci families could have been won. With her at his side, old allies who hated the Morettis would fall in line. Territories that had been fought over for decades would quietly come under his control. Marrying Sophia, making her his wife, would end the war without another shot fired. It was the ultimate strategic victory. His phone buzzed. A message from one of his captains: "Moretti men are pulling back from the East Docks." Word is Lorenzo gave the order himself. Vincenzo's mouth curved into a dark smile. He had taken everything. Across the city, in a quiet villa outside Milan, Lorenzo Moretti poured himself a glass of whiskey. His short black hair was neat again, but his green eyes carried new shadows. He wore a simple black shirt, sleeves rolled up, sitting alone in a room full of family photos. One of them now showing a young Elena, the sister he had lost. He had let Sophia go. Not because he stopped wanting her. God, no. The memory of her body arching between them in the warehouse still made his blood run hot. He could still feel her mouth under his, the way she had moaned into his kiss before turning to Vincenzo. But she was blood. His niece. And once he knew that, desire had twisted into something deeper: protection. Letting her choose Vincenzo hurt like a blade in the chest. But it was the smart move. Lorenzo's empire was built on calculation, not impulse. If he had fought harder, kept her, the fragile peace would shatter. Old grudges would flare. Men would die. By stepping back, he saved lives, his men, her life, maybe even Vincenzo's. And in return, Vincenzo was giving up territory, pulling back from borders that had cost hundreds of lives over the years. A silent deal, the girl for peace. Lorenzo raised his glass to the empty room. "To you, Elena," he whispered. "Your daughter ended the war you started." But the victory tasted like ash. Sophia met Vincenzo that afternoon at a quiet cafe near the Duomo. He was already there, sitting outside, legs stretched out, sunglasses hiding his eyes. When he saw her, he stood and pulled her into his arms without a word. His hand slid down her back, possessive, pulling her tight against him. I missed you, he murmured against her hair. She let herself sink into him for a moment, into the warmth, the strength. It's only been hours. Too long. He pulled back just enough to look at her. Come home with me tonight. She searched his face. Is that all this is to you now? Winning? His jaw tightened. You think I don't feel this? He took her hand and pressed it against his chest, over his heart. It was pounding. I've never wanted anyone like I want you. But yeah, I won't lie. Having you by my side changes everything. The families will see it. They'll back down. No more fighting. Sophia nodded slowly. She had known it too. Choosing Vincenzo wasn't just following her heart, it was choosing the side that could protect her, give her a real future. With Lorenzo, it would always be complicated by blood, by duty. With Vincenzo, it was raw and simple, desire, power, safety. I met with Lorenzo this morning, Vincenzo said quietly. He signed over 3 districts. No blood. Just paper. Her stomach twisted. How is he? Vincenzo's eyes darkened. Broken. But he'll live. He knows it's the only way. Sophia looked away, tears stinging her eyes. She hated that she had hurt him. Hated that part of her still ached for the gentle way Lorenzo had touched her, the way he had stepped back without making her feel guilty. Vincenzo cupped her chin, turning her face back to him. Don't feel bad for choosing me. He let you go because he loves you, in his own way. But I'm not letting you go. Ever. He kissed her then, slow and deep, right there on the street where anyone could see. A claim. A promise. Later that night, in Vincenzo's penthouse, he made good on every unspoken word from the warehouse. Clothes fell away slowly, his hands rough and reverent, mouth hot against her skin. He took his time, learning every inch of her, making her say his name over and over until there was no room for anyone else in her mind. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets, he held her close. Marry me, he whispered against her neck. Make it official. End this for good. She turned in his arms, tracing the line of his jaw. Yes. But even as she said it, a small part of her heart stayed broken, for the man who had walked away into the rain, carrying the weight of peace on his shoulders alone. Lorenzo heard about the engagement 2 days later. He stood on his balcony, watching the city lights, and poured another whiskey. He had lost the woman he wanted more than anything. But he had saved her life. And in the end, that was enough. Old alliances were gone. New grudges would form, men loyal to Lorenzo who hated seeing their boss give up so much, men on Vincenzo's side who thought he had gone soft. Hearts were broken. But for the first time in decades, no one was dying. Peace had a price. And they had all paid it. 6 months later, Milan looked different in the spring sunshine. The canals in the Navigli district sparkled, flowers bloomed along the streets, and life felt almost normal. Sophia Ricci, soon to be officially, once the wedding invitations went out, stood on the balcony of Vincenzo's penthouse, a light silk robe wrapped around her body. Her long wavy dark brown hair danced in the warm breeze, and her deep brown eyes stared out over the city she now quietly helped control. Vincenzo came up behind her, arms sliding around her waist, lips brushing the curve of her neck. His messy dark hair tickled her skin, and his hazel eyes were soft with that possessive warmth she had come to crave. He still wore only boxers, his muscular body pressed close. Morning, fiancé, he murmured, hands wandering lower. Come back to bed. She smiled and leaned into him, letting his touch light her up the way it always did. In a minute. I'm enjoying the view. He chuckled against her ear. You're the only view I need. Across town, in his quiet villa, Lorenzo Moretti sat at his desk signing papers that transferred another small piece of territory to Vincenzo's growing empire. His short black hair had a touch more grey at the temples now, but his green eyes were steady. He looked calmer than he had in years. No more late-night calls about shootings, no more bodies in alleys. Peace reigned. He had kept his promise. He stayed away. He let her be happy. Or so everyone believed. Sophia turned in Vincenzo's arms, kissing him slow and deep. He groaned softly, lifting her against the balcony railing, hands sliding under the robe. She wrapped her legs around him, losing herself in the heat of him. The man who made her feel alive, wild, wanted. But even as he carried her back inside and made love to her like the world might end tomorrow, a small part of her mind stayed perfectly clear. Later, while Vincenzo showered, Sophia sat at the kitchen island with her coffee. She opened a locked drawer and pulled out a thin leather notebook. Page after page was filled with her neat handwriting, names, dates, bank accounts, secret deals. Territories that had quietly shifted not to Vincenzo, but to holding companies she controlled. Alliances she had whispered into ears on both sides during late-night calls neither man knew about. She had played them perfectly. From the very beginning, Sophia had never been just a waitress running from her past. She had been waiting, watching, learning. Her father hadn't just been an accountant, he had been the one man both families trusted with their dirtiest money. Before he died, he had hidden evidence, ledgers, recordings, proof that could destroy either side. He had told 19-year-old Sophia where to find it one day, when she was ready. She had come to Milan not to hide, but to finish what he started. The rivalry between Lorenzo and Vincenzo had been her weapon. She fed them just enough jealousy, just enough desire, to keep them blind. She let them fight over her, let them tear each other down, let them believe love made them weak. And while they were busy claiming her body, she claimed their power. Lorenzo had given up territory for peace, and for her. Vincenzo had gained it all, thinking he won the prize. Neither realized the prize had been playing them both. Sophia closed the notebook and slipped it away. Vincenzo came out of the bedroom, towel around his waist, grinning. Wedding plans today? Or do I get you all to myself? She smiled, that warm, innocent smile that still made his knees weak, and walked into his arms. All yours, she whispered, kissing him again. In a month, she would marry Vincenzo. The families would celebrate the union that ended decades of war. Everyone would toast to love conquering hate. And no one would ever know that Sofia De Luca Moretti had quietly become the most powerful person in Milan. She hadn't chosen either man. She had chosen herself. As Vincenzo carried her back to bed, laughing and happy, Sophia looked out the window one last time. Somewhere across the city, Lorenzo poured his evening whiskey and raised a silent toast to the niece he would always protect, from a distance. He never saw the small smile on her face in the photograph on his desk. The one that looked exactly like Elena's. The war was over. But the real game had only just begun. Was Sophia ever truly in love? Did she feel anything real for Vincenzo? Or for Lorenzo? Or was every kiss, every touch, every tear just another move on the board? Only Sophia knows. And she's not telling. Wait, did Sophia just play them both the entire time? That twist at the end. She wasn't the prize, she was the mastermind. My jaw is on the floor. What do you think? Was any of it real for her? Do you want a sequel following Sophia as Milan's secret queen? Drop all your thoughts in the comments and tell me what city you're watching from. If this ending shocked you, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Who knows, maybe she'll be back. Thank you for coming on this wild ride with me.